This time, we're going to start at the end, because how we got here is a tale of failure, betrayal, and revolution. But all you need to know right now is... I'm back to Gundam, baby! Straight off the bat, this is not a tutorial. Like most hobbyists, I've painted a whole bunch of models in all different sizes. And yes, they're mostly pink. But as it turns out, painting Gundam with the same approach as you would with Warhammer doesn't quite hit. And that's where the failure comes in. Just like I do with every other miniature I paint, I was going to be all in. No candles, no Barry White, no warming up, just balls deep straight out of the gate. Because at this point I had all the confidence in the world. I had it in my head that it was just going to be like painting a dreadnought. Similar size, similar shape, we should be HOTTOGO. To get those cool shifting synthwave tones, we went straight in with a wet blend of Terrestrial Titan and the Darkness. And because they're bigger, flatter, more open panels than normal, I did use a little bit of the retarder medium just to slow down that drying process. But just like an American-made car, this is where it all started to fall apart. Now, I wasn't worried about the patchiness of the first coat that we were laying down here. Wet blending is very, very rarely one and done, so I knew I'd have to come back in. But what started to shut down the confidence like 3 tabs open in Windows Vista was the fact that I didn't have any idea about the universal light sources that I was using. I honestly didn't even think about it. I had a basic idea in my head of what I wanted, which means I had a foolproof plan. Until I didn't. But the real problem was I didn't recognize that this was the issue yet. So I just kept building up the layers, building up those colors, thinking trust the process. And let me tell you, that line, trust the process, has gotten me into more trouble than it's actually been beneficial. When you stop trusting your instincts that something's not quite right and you trust a bullshit line like that, it's just gonna waste your time. Even though in the beginning I didn't quite know what the problem was, I knew there was a problem. But like a jackass, I kept going anyway. And then eventually you'll hit this weird subconscious line of this is the point of no return. We put too much time and too much work in now to start backtracking. But there is a secondary point where you realize that this is exactly where you fucked up. And just like any other toxic relationship, the only thought I had was, I can fix it. And this is where I consciously realized that I didn't like it. And the more work that I put into trying to fix it, it just got worse. And this is a massive motivation killer in any aspect of the hobby. Because this is about the time that you start thinking you've lost your spark and you are absolutely terrible at this. And from that point on, you stop putting effort in. Not only to the application of actually trying to do something good here, but it will start to eat away at your mindset. No matter what it looks like when this comes out, even if it's semi-decent, you will absolutely hate it. And that's exactly what happened here. Because after I got done with laying in some wicked pink, I just absolutely abandoned this. And this was even supposed to be last week's video, which is why it didn't come out, because it absolutely killed my confidence in this. In my head, right at this moment, I was completely washed up. I failed myself, I failed everybody that was going to watch the video, and I'm going to have to start looking for a new job. But I ain't no punk-ass bitch, so we're going to run this again. After I was done crying at the window while it was raining outside while listening to All By Myself like I'm in fucking Bridget Jones's Diary, I got back to it. The first big change I made is I should probably do this in sub-assemblies. And then the next thing was coming up with a different idea, something that's a little bit more basic where I don't have to rely on transitions as much. And with all of these big blocky shapes and panels, I decided to outline everything. Because if you've seen anything on the channel before, you probably know what I was thinking here. But my real thought process was going back to basics will help me to kind of understand what I'm dealing with. The change in scale, size, details, all of it kind of piled up. And because everything is mostly flat panels, my usual bullshit of using volumetric highlighting wasn't really going to get me out of this one. And also, this is exactly why this is not a tutorial video. Because all I'm doing is painting more white lines than a fucking highway. And yes, there was some overspill, but this is an easy one where you just get to go back and tidy up with a flat black. And it honestly didn't take too long to do absolutely every single part of this. And then I felt like we were finally set up to do something decent. And with a track record of making everything look like an RGB keyboard, you'd be forgiven if you assumed what was going to happen here. But you know what they say when you assume. Sometimes you're wrong. What we're actually going to do is something along the lines of neon outline pop art. And spoilers, this sucks too. I suppose it's not really a spoiler when it was the first thing you saw in the video. There is some absolutely killer fan art online for Gundam. And I bet you can tell by now, I like neon signs. A lot. And yes, this was kind of a turn that I wasn't expecting either. I was going to do the RGB thing. But instead, I busted out those 3 primary colors, which means you know which one is the protagonist's mobile suit in the show. Without red, blue, and yellow, who would we know who the good guy was? Ooh, there's the black suit, he must be the bad guy. Thanks 1950s color conditioning. This is a very simple idea and it went very quickly. And look, I get it, it's not the cleanest job in the world, but this one really wasn't supposed to be. This whole thing was about getting back in the saddle and doing something that was going to build up that confidence again. Getting used to size, shape, and detail changes. Hell, maybe even just enjoying something. And yes, they do look like the ruby slippers from the Wizard of Oz when they're done. I both love and hate that at the exact same time. Now we can get a little bit more real here. We all go through a level of what they call imposter syndrome. And especially with stuff like social media where we get to show our work, we then think our work is being compared with some of the best in the world. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, we are. And that can absolutely be a double-edged sword. Because when we do something great, we get that pat on the back and feel excellent about ourselves. But sometimes it just doesn't hit. And sometimes that can be enough to push people out of the hobby. And I gotta tell you, I get that too. And there is a little bit of added pressure since this is my job. If I absolutely suck, I can't feed my family. And that is a whole dark spiraling staircase that you don't want to go down. But for now, we made it. We got back up on our feet and we put something out that isn't the worst in the world. But this isn't the end of the story. After pulling my head out of my ass and trying again, it kind of steamrolled enough confidence to move on to the next stage. Because after this, the thoughts started coming in that maybe my skill set wasn't completely redundant and I was just a little shaken by the change in mediums. Now, you may have already seen this short. I pulled out the SD aerial kit and tried something that I've wanted to try for a long time, and that's cell shading. And the SD kit heads are fantastic for this kind of thing. You get a lot of room to play with, you get some great shapes in there, and there's some actual curvature. And if I'm being completely honest, this is probably the kit and the paint job that saved it all. And if I'm being completely honest with showing my whole ass, this is probably one of the coolest things I've ever painted. And as much as we've just spoken about that deep dark hole that we get into when something doesn't go to plan, it's really important to start celebrating when something does go to plan. You're allowed to be proud of yourself and your work without being an egotistical bastard. With this being our first foray into the world of Gundam painting, I think we can get comfortable here. And as much as some of these paint jobs were pretty rough, I think there was a bit of a skill and a mindset level up. We fucking did it, chat. It's been a pretty wild change going from Warhammer to Gundam, and there was absolutely some doubt that I wouldn't be able to do it. And if I couldn't, it may have even meant that the channel wouldn't survive. We all get those little voices in our heads, and some of us have more voices in there than others. But there's 2 things that we need to remember. 1, not everything is going to be a masterpiece. And 2, you can always try it again. As always, a massive thank you to the Army Painter, in-games, and all of our fantastic Patreon members. Big love, you filthy heretics.